Call to order. Will y'all join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You got a fine voice today. That sounds very good. All right, special recognition. One of my favorite times of the year is that we do some special recognition for our outstanding people that we call our students. And let's get started. Who's first?
Okay, good evening. Yes, we do have some opportunity tonight to do some special recognition for our students, both athletes and who have participated in other activities. So I'm going to invite our athletic directors from our 3 comprehensive high schools to come forward and introduce their teams and recipients. We'll start with Kennewick High School and Kyle Cowan.
Thank you. So this has been a great year at Kennewick. We had an awards night a couple weeks ago. We had 17 of our 23 teams participate in the state tournament this year, so or be a part of that. So we're excited about that. This spring was no different. 7 of the 9 teams participated in the state tournament, and one of our outstanding performances was our girls track team. My coach is unfortunately not able to be here, so I wanted to speak to some of the accomplishments that they had. So number 1, they were regular season champions. They were MCC meet champions, the district meet champions, and they finished 5th in state as a team. Coach Schabel was coach of the year for the Mid-Columbia Conference. We had the field athlete of the year in Aubrey Heron, and the track athlete of the year is Adeline Mitchell. So great performance at the district level. And then on to state, of course, a lot of them finished well, but to acknowledge a few of them that finished in the top 3, we had Aubrey Heron, who was 2nd in triple jump this year. Camilla Howard was 3rd in shot put. And our 4x2 team, which consisted of Danica Helms, Aubrey Heron, Kate Christian, Adeline Mitchell, they finished 2nd. So great performance for our girls track team. Unfortunately, none of them could be here, but just happy to announce that they had a great season. Thank you.
Okay, and next up,
Go ahead. Hold on just a second.
Yep.
We had a point of order here, and we need to correct it. I need a motion to excuse Mike from being the president when I'm not the president is Mike, and he's not here. So we have to, rules of order, we have to excuse him for not being here. It's going to be a tough vote.
I move to excuse Mike Connors from the meeting tonight.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Can we have the vote?
Mr. Galbraith?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Ms. Dunbick?
Yes.
And Mr. Mabry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for passing that on. Thank you, folks. All right. Matt, it's yours.
all right, not a problem. So next we have Anna Harris from Kennewick High School.
So we had some great individual efforts this spring in both athletics and our JROTC program. We have 1 athlete here and a couple JROTC kids. Not all of the JROTC kids could make it tonight, but I'll have Lieutenant Colonel Wickers talk about them. But first we'll have assistant track coach Josh Erkes talk about his athlete, Jackson Burns.
All right, up front. I couldn't be more proud of this young man, Jackson Burns. He did join us tonight. He did make it to this meeting. Jackson started out the season as a junior, set really big goals, and he achieved them. Jackson Burns took 3rd in the state in his 110 hurdles. Took a time of 14:41 this season. He's 0.2 or 0.1, depending on what clock we choose, for the school record. He also placed 6th in the 300 hurdles, which was a huge achievement, at 39.13 seconds, which broke the school record at Kennewick High over 26 years. So this young man achieved a lot. I don't know if you want to stand up and say
Stand up.
hi.
Yeah. Stand up.
Thank you very much.
And I'll introduce our JROTC instructor, Lieutenant Colonel Wickers.
We had a good season, so we compete across a range of events, marksmanship, drill, and fitness, and in a league with about 15 schools from both Oregon and Washington State. And so we had several teams get qualified for the finals. Our unarmed team, our armed team took second place. Tiana Baldwin was out of town. She couldn't make it, but great leadership from her. Our fitness team took first place in their division. We had two. We have a pair of twins, the Olmedo twins we call them. They took first and second respectively, so that's kind of a big advantage for us. And our boy took second place. Caleb Combs is a Southridge student, and he's off to West Point right now, so he's about to start school. So that's great. We were able to bring in two of our students. Alyssa Badeau took second place in her individual events. She's also a Southridge student, and Jared Rhodes is a homeschooled student with us, and he also took second place in his individual event. So I want to say congratulations to all of them.
Good job.
So next we have from Southridge High School, Athletic Director Rick Wells.
Thank you everyone for having us here tonight. It's a lot of fun in this job to be able to do this and talk about our teams and our athletes. Just to kind of echo what both Anna and Kyle said, we had a very successful spring season. Didn't have one team that wasn't involved in districts this year. In fact, it was one of the more successful spring seasons we've had at Southridge for a long time. We had a couple of teams go deep into the state playoffs, and we've had some individual performances that were excellent. So I want to talk about those real quick. In track, we had a couple of young men that placed in the top 3 in the state in individual group awards. Trevor Hoops, who also won 3rd in state in wrestling earlier this year, placed 3rd in state in the shot put. So he finished out his fantastic athletic career on a high note. And then our sprinter, Lucian Cohn, he just missed a state championship but placed 2nd in the 100-meter dash and was also part of the anchor of our 5th place 4x100 team that missed the state championship. This is how close it was by 0.19 seconds. So that's less than a blink of an eye is how quickly those 5 teams were separated. So it was really impressive for our male track athletes this year. In tennis, we had both of our teams do very well. We had the MCC Tennis Player of the Year as a sophomore. His name's Ty Parrish. He won every single match this year until the semifinals at the state tournament. He lost there, and then he bounced back the next round and earned 3rd in state as a sophomore. So we're really very proud of Ty as well. Now I want to talk about our state championship team. Esports once again has earned another state championship title this year. I think they're going to ruin my budget with hanging banners here soon, so I'm gonna have to figure out a different deal. There's a competition in Super Smash Brothers that they were able to compete in and win this year. The following students are members of that state championship team. Try to do well on their names. A couple of them are a little tough. Cassius Salinas, Derek Turner, Ezekiel Lozano, Samuel Rogers, Skylar Fennicum, and Kale Lachaga. They're all the members of that Super Smash Brothers team. So congratulations to them. That's, again, the 2nd esports championship this year. And finally, I do have one of our state championships here, our individual state championship golfer. She was the MCC Golfer of the Year yet again. And this year, instead of 2nd place, she thought she'd bring home the trophy. And I wanted to introduce our 3A state championship for girls golf, Jillian Huey.
Take lessons.
Congratulations.
So that concludes our recognition.
Well, I want to make one point. I own this state record in North Carolina.
For what, Ron?
Golfing?
For golf?
No, hurdles. I knocked down the most hurdles that anyone's ever knocked down.
You want to show Bob yet?
Want to shake my hand?
We'll shake our hand.
Thank you.
That's pretty funny.
Thanks for being here.
I think it's funny. People
Thanks, guys.
before you even said I had to stay record.
I didn't.
I didn't believe it. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Settle down. Diane, you distract us. Okay.
You get to read the little.
Oh, yeah. Good job, Diane.
Thanks.
Okay, we have some reading that I want to share with you folks. The Kennewick School District Board of Directors appreciate hearing from the community. At regular board meetings, the Board of Directors provide an opportunity for communications from parents, staff, and district residents. This time is reserved during the working meeting for the board to listen to comments, input, and information. The board does not respond to comments provided, as the goal is to listen to and learn. Please know that the board's silence is neutral. It's neither a signal of agreement or disagreement with the speaker's remarks. As appropriate, the board would ask the superintendent and her staff to look into any issues raised. Please note, it's important for all community members to feel welcome and safe during the board business meeting. The board does not take public comments on issues related to personnel or individually named staff members at board meetings. However, you can email the board with any such comments. Finally, please remember that your words have impact, and you, not the school district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers that it's possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy, laws prohibiting defamation. If you are unsure of the legal effects of your remarks, you should seek independent legal advice. In any case, we ask that you help us model for our students what a respectful and inclusive community looks like and sounds like. Guidelines do we need to go through the guidelines? Please use appropriate form language, forms to sign with your name. You already done that. When I call your name, please come forward, and you have 2 minutes to talk. The lights will give you a signal that your time is close at hand and then has concluded. So, first to speak, if you would, Dottie Stevens.
Thank you, board members. I'm Dottie Stevens, resident in Kennewick. First of all, even though they've left, I want to commend Lieutenant Colonel Wickers. Recently, we had the 200 people show up for the Washington State School Retirees Association, and they came and presented the colors beautifully with the students, and we thank them very much. It was amazing. Air Force, ROTC, Kennewick High. Very, very good. I'm here today to thank the Kennewick School District for the work that was done on behalf of our community to share facts for our recently passed educational program and Operation Levy. Our children and grandchildren need the support now after the difficulty of the pandemic. I and my neighbors appreciate the extras provided as specified in the flyer of facts: student learning and staffing, health and safety, instructional support, athletics and activities, and operations and maintenance. My neighbors informed me they were not confused, and the message was clear, and they voted. It was a dire situation after a double levy failure and new technology used. Now we better understand these guidelines from the PDC. We know that in Kennewick, the Kennewick Citizen Levy and Bond Committee will be ready with needed additional support. However, 223 has impacted with no enhanced levy being collected, and some infrastructure and staffing will be delayed. As reported in the newspaper, $34 million has been lost. I will myself be donating to my favorite nonprofit, the Kennewick School District. The value of my property has increased, so I've increased my donation to $600 because I believe in the enhanced levy because the children are worth it. I thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And next, Camry Longenker.
That was clear.
Camry, okay. Yeah, correct me.
That was great.
Please correct me.
My name's Cambry Longacre.
Longacre.
close. I like it.
I think I know that name.
You probably do. I've been here a few times,
Okay.
but this is a different capacity. So
Okay.
here we go. My name's Cambry Longacre, and my colleague Sarah Dennison has donated her 2 minutes to me, if that's still a thing. So thank you so much, school board members. I'm a Kennewick School District teacher and parent. My children have experienced both elementary and middle school here, and I teach at one of our high schools. I attended both middle school and high school, and I've grown up in our area and lived here for over 20 years. With that, I just hope you know that I love our area and am committed to advocating for excellence in our education system for our students, families, and educators. That's what brings me here tonight, both as a parent and as a teacher. There's so much good happening here and hard work being done already, and I want to acknowledge that. I'm requesting that the board look into a few things related to safety, and I'd like to investigate it and of course change it. These things are related to the discipline policies here district-wide. I'd like to make them more consistent for all students across the entire district so that all parents, students, and families experience the same thing as they progress K through 12. As parents, we need to be having similar experiences so we know how to access, advocate, and access these resources as our kids grow up in Kennewick School District. In regards to discipline, reporting harassment, and getting the help we need to know how to do that. All of this is related to safety. One example relates to something that just happened to my own son in 8th grade. He, a stellar student, no bias intended, has been a great student all 3 years at his middle school, and he experienced some harassment during 8th grade, reported it to his teachers, to staff at his school, and he felt like it was being dealt with. He definitely ignored the behavior, walked away from the behavior of harassment, reported it, did all the things he was taught to do, and finally during the 4th quarter was not able to handle this any longer and may have punched a student. The consequence for this in public education is ISS, which I completely support as a teacher. He served his ISS, had a great time in ISS, had pizza, great experience, and then went home. Little did I know that he would not be able to attend his 8th grade celebration, and then he would be excluded, and then his peers would make fun of him, and this would just domino into multiple things. I was unsure how to meet with educators and advocate for him and go through the process of seeking the help that he needed to mitigate this. In Kennewick School District, I, as a teacher, was not sure how to navigate this situation, advocate for him, and get the help I needed, and I am a teacher. How are other parents and students supposed to advocate for themselves and get these discipline policies changed and explained? K through 12, we need to be consistent, top down, and have support instead of teachers trying to find the solutions. This is my request. I know that we're doing things in each school through multi-tiered systems of support, but they're different at each school. What can we do to be more uniform across our schools in supporting our students and parents in regards to discipline and behavior? And how can we be more inclusive instead of exclusive in our discipline is my request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good. Next is Roma. Roma, and I know you, Roma.
Yes.
I know.
Mr. Wing,
I
your
know.
son and my son,
Yes.
they were in CBC co-op preschool, and I
That's
remember
right.
the one.
You're exactly right, and I'm embarrassed.
Kindness.
I'm embarrassed.
Mama, what was your last name?
Diva Gupta.
I apologize.
Good evening, Dr. Pierce and school board members. I'm Dr. Rama Diva Gupta. I'm a national board certified teacher and I teach biology at Southridge High. Michelle Melville, my friend, fellow KSD teacher from Vista Elementary, librarian, has yielded her time to me. Thank you, Michelle. Now that the school year is over, it is time to reflect. And before I share my reflection, I want to share the purpose. The purpose of my communication today is to make our community more aware of things they may not be knowing because not everybody is in the classroom. And second, to be an advocate for our students for academic excellence. So I'm here to share my reflections about the impact of the double levy failure from last year. But first, I would like to take a moment to express my gratitude to our community for passing the levy this February. Thank you, Kennewick voters. As an educator, I would like our community to know that even though the levy did pass this February, we're still facing the rippling effect from last year's double levy failure. It is directly affecting our gifted students and our upper level academic classes. What do I mean? Let me elaborate. While we could offer advanced placement classes in the past for smaller class sizes earlier, this is no longer the case. Although Washington State Legislature has approved free tuition for all students who wish to earn dual credit enrollment through college and high school starting this year, thus addressing issues of equity and leveling the playing field, we are unable to offer this opportunity to many of our students at Southridge this coming year. Southridge is a high poverty school. Gifted education falls under the same law as special education. And yet, because of the double levy failure, our district is no longer offering several advanced level STEM classes at Southridge High next year, placing many of our future STEM students at a disadvantage when they finally get to college. This will likely result in some gifted students transferring to other schools or pursuing independent studies, which could have the unintentional consequences of increasing deep inequality between KSD high schools. Our students are our greatest natural resource in our country's future. It is vitally important that we provide more opportunities and pathways to college for each and every student. Our advanced level STEM classes are getting decapitated. Are we celebrating the potential of each and every student as we have pledged to do in the KSD's learning profile? How will we support the needs of these exceptionally gifted students? I ask. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Tracy, can I pick on you a little bit and ask if there's anything we can do to see if we can save these classes or?
What I'll do is I'll follow up after the meeting to get some information and data to the board and look into the situation.
So is there anyone she can talk to, or will she have to stay? I mean, I'm sure you want to stay, it's so exciting, but.
I mean, I don't want to make anybody
You can
stay. We
connect
can
later.
follow up with
Okay.
Rama after and we'll do that.
Okay,
Okay.
very good. Thank you. All right, next we have Michelle Melville. Oh, you gave it, okay. Good job. I had to say your name anyway because it's written here. Okay. All right, well, that's all we have.
Is there anybody
Online?
online?
Yeah, good question.
Robin?
Okay.
All right. Thank you all. Now, do we talk to each other now? All right, consent items. Okay. Okay, do we have a motion to approve the consent items?
I move to approve consent items as written.
I get a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Mr.
No
Galbraith?
discussion. No discussion, so we have a roll call vote.
Mr. Galbraith?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Ms. Stenvick?
Yes.
And Mr. Mabry?
Yes. All right, and now we're at a point where we talk about the superintendent and the board members report.
Okay, well, I have just a couple things to share. Of course, we're wrapping up another school year. It's hard to believe the school year seemed to go extremely fast. We've had so many end-of-year celebrations and great events at schools. One that comes to mind that was new this year was the clap out of seniors up at Cottonwood, which was a really cool event. Of course, we've had graduations. There were 8 graduation ceremonies, as we all know, that happened on June 8th, 9th, and 10th, and all of the ceremonies were just full of happy students and well-prepared students, excited families, and all of the speeches by the students and staff and, of course, board members were very inspirational and appropriately brief. I just wanted, as I reflect on the year, I think about the fact that there are thousands of adults, staff members, family members, and volunteers in our schools, and of course our community who supported our schools and worked hard to support students from preschool, but when they enter our system all the way through to graduation. And so it's just awesome always to see another group of seniors graduating. So I want to congratulate the class of 2023 once again. And then I have one other positive item to share. We received a letter from OSPI that is a brief letter I'd like to read. It says, "Dear Dr. Pierce, after reviewing the results of the recent Washington State Patrol annual inspection, we recognize that your school district has again completed the inspection of school buses with exceptional results. For the past 2 years, the results in your district have been outstanding. We congratulate you, your administration, and the staff of your transportation department for these outstanding school bus inspection results. We look forward to your continued support of student transportation safety. Keep up the fantastic work." It's signed by Superintendent Chris Reichdahl and Chief John Batiste, who's from the Washington State Patrol. So I just want to really publicly recognize April Heiser, who's our transportation director, and our whole transportation team for their outstanding bus inspection results. And without transportation, we can't get kids to school and they don't graduate. So it comes full circle. So thank you to them.
Okay, that's it?
That's it for me.
This whole time, and that's all you have?
That's all I have for now, or later.
Sorry, I kid too much sometimes. But I haven't said your name yet, Gabe.
I was waiting.
All right, Gabe.
So like everyone up here attended graduation. I think that's been probably my favorite part of being on the board, is attending the graduations and getting to see all the graduates and sharing that moment with them. So that was definitely special. Lots of events, end of year events. I will have to say I attended a school field day at Sunset View, and I think I made it maybe 5 minutes before I got soaked with super soakers and stuff. And I guess that's what you get when you tell a student, you can squirt me once, and then it's like 15 later, but I didn't have the heart to say no. So, but no, just a shout out and a thank you to everyone who made this year possible: teachers, staff, administrators, students, parents, everything. Appreciate all that you guys do for the district. So thank you.
Okay. Micah?
Thank you, Ron, for yielding your power to the little me. Yeah, this is one of the busiest, probably like one of the busiest 2 weeks I think I've had. I mean, it's like every single day I was at a field day or at an end of year graduation celebration. Saw Diane and Gabe and several people at some of them. Some really special moments in graduation. There's a few kids in situations that kind of stand out when you can just see how happy some of these kids are to make it across that finish line. That's pretty cool. I went to a lot of grad parties. I think I pretty much went broke at these things. And then my wife, by like the second to last one, she said, you should just give like $22 and 22 or 23 cents, because that's the year they graduated. And I said, what? Why didn't I think of that like 10 of these ago? So anyway, that was really fun. I ate some really great food. We just have such great people in our district and our community that really enjoyed that time spent with them.
Diane?
So also 8 graduations in 3 days, and I was honored to speak at Phoenix's graduation again this year. And all of our kids, I don't know that they understand how momentous it is sometimes until they get right there, and then their eyes are like, oh wow. And so that's always very exciting. I spoke to 4th graders at Fuerza last month. It was their section on elected officials, and so I got to speak about elected school board members. And gosh, they have great questions for 4th graders. Some I had to think about really hard, so that was very exciting. Went to the WASDA District Area 11 meeting, which was held over at Pasco School District, and I think we had about 45 people there, about right, from all over our general Southeast Washington area. Did the OSP online student art show, and I'm sorry that I do not have our KSD winners. I talked about them before, but we have great art students in our district, and they all took first place in something or other, and it was pretty impressive. Went to the Hawthorne Volunteer Gathering for those of us who did the amazing shake earlier in the year, and was a part of the KSD Student Board Rep interviews. I have to say, every one of those kids should be on our board. They are all fabulous. It was hard to make choices. Went to the Washington Elementary Library Reading Celebration with Mr. Mabry, and that was probably one of the highlights of my year. And I think that's it. Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I beat Diane at that library.
That's not true. That's not true.
I did beat you. I just want to also give props. Everything everyone has said, kudos, but also the people that sat up and took down for their graduation just did a great job. And because I didn't leave between graduations, I watched them do their work, their job, and the place was spotless between graduations. And I don't know, is it okay to give them kudos? Because they did a great job. They did a great job. That's all I have. All right, next on the list here is public hearings from Mr. Vic Roberts.
I'll get us started with that.
Okay. Vic's going to go from his chair this.
I don't know, he's waiting.
Okay. Yeah, so this evening is our public hearing for the budget, and Vic will be presenting. I'm just getting us started with the public hearing portion and highlighting the fact that presenting the budget to the board annually for approval is connected to our district goal of being innovative, proactive, and accountable. We want to be good stewards of the resources that the public entrusts us with. And as we know, Vic and his staff do an outstanding job of managing the budget, of presenting information throughout the spring to the board, and then ultimately coming to the board tonight for budget approval through the public hearing process. Our agenda for the public hearing is as follows. There'll be the staff presentation, which Vic will provide. Then there'll be a public comment period where people will be able to speak or have the opportunity to speak either for or against the budget. Then comes board discussion and deliberation, and then finally board action. So Mr. Mabry, as acting president, will have you now bring the public hearing to order. And so we've got the words up on the screen for people, and then you'll share those as well.
The public hearing on the proposed 2023-2024 budget for the Kennewick School District will now come to order. Everyone wishing to be heard or against, or for or against the proposed budget will be given an opportunity to speak at the conclusion of the presentation. For those attending the meeting remotely, the remote public comment sign-up form will now be open so you can sign up and be called to speak following the presentation. And there's a link that you can log on to. So at this time, I would ask Executive Director of Business Operations, Mr. Vic Roberts, to present the proposed 2023-24 budget.
No gavel. By the way, Vic promised me he would have this in under 3 hours.
I think I broke it.
You hit it too hard the first time.
I think I did.
All right, thank you for that introduction. And let's just kind of get a high level here of the budget here. General fund and a few other funds. The district funds are listed here: general fund, ASB, capital projects, transportation, debt service, and self-insured, which is really more of a program. And so it was noted earlier, the levy, the failure of that levy cost about $34 million, spread over 2 school years, 22, 23, $20 million of revenue that didn't come in, and 23, 24, 14 million. And we're making that up with the ESSER funding, and we'll discuss that as we go through the budget. Enrollment wise, we were up this year over budget by almost 100 kids. And then for next year's budget, we're budgeting about right where we're going to end up for this year. So generally maybe 20 or 30 kids less. So down below here, you can see the ESSER and non-ESSER budgets. So 22, 23, I did include that just for reference. And then 23, 24, you can see making up more ground there, where we were 25 million short last year on paper without the ESSER, and 16 million for next year. And then applying the ESSER money of $20 million of revenue and 9.9 million is expenditures there, brings it down to about $6 million where expenditures exceed revenues. But I want to point out this 9.9 million, only about 4.5 million of that is committed. That goes for mental health services, tutoring, and about 2.5 million for math adoption. So there is another 4 or 5 million in here that really will help fund some of these other costs that are already up here in the 310 million, and that should get us closer to a break even for next year. And then just a recap of the ESSER funding, district received 58.7 million, and we've been reimbursed 12.6 million in 2021, 10.3 million 21-22, estimated about 15.7 million this school year, and that's going to leave about 20 million that you see in the budget for next school year. And down here, the ESSER funding earlier is used for PPE, and then quite a bit of it's used for just maintaining staff, online staff. And then down here, we're getting into some mental health, online tutoring, and that's been going on the last couple of years and for next year. And then probably get into some funding, some summer school. And then here's a K-5 math curriculum in 23-24. Some of the areas to point out for next year, again, the levy fail here. I do want to point out, 23, 24, 24, 25, we're trying to build the fund balance to get through those years. When you get out 24, 25, 26, 20, 25, 26, the budget doesn't look that good. The original levy was quite a bit higher than what was passed. So, in 2025, it's about $5 million difference from what was presented and failed versus what was actually represented and passed. And as we look at those projections, for the out years, that is significant, and we'll have to deal with that and hope that revenue comes in higher in enrollment, but that will be a challenge. Some of the other areas here, communities and schools, so still 11 schools, and we'll look at that again in another year to see if we can add any. The mental health contract through ESSER funding is still in the budget for 23-24. ESSER funding expires August 2024. So how we, we'll look at that, see how that can be funded when that money expires, but that will be a challenge. Counselor staffing, we added 3 staff for next year based on some revenues from the state and some needs there. School safety, the levy had some safety officers, about 23, so we're working on filling those positions for next year. And it will take some time over the next year to try to get that staffed. Adding city security resource officers at the middle schools. We currently have 2 at the middle schools, and I think that increases to 3. And we'll probably, not get on board with all 3 until toward the end of the year. I think beginning maybe January, the city will start bringing them on. Team Read, adding 1 more school there, Amistad, for next year. And then some of the state, federal funding there, some increases. Transitional kindergarten, that normally starts December 1st, but or January 1st. Next year, we're going to start that December 1st, so about a month early. And we've been getting about 25 to 30 students. That's where it ended up this last spring. Down the list here, TriTech Skills Center, the building should be open August 2023 for the pre-vet and pre-medical programs. And then we got Ridgeview Elementary School construction still on target for December 2023 completion. So those are some of the more noteworthy areas there for next year. And then a little summary here of the 5 funds. The general fund, we're projecting 47 million beginning fund balance, which would be the ending fund balance this year. That's probably a little aggressive. It probably come in, maybe it could come in 45 million, a little lower, but we bumped that a little bit. There is about $2 million here of a transfer for TriTech to repay some of the construction that they're going to have to repay over the next few years. And I put about $3 million placeholder just looking ahead if the budget has issues in 24, 25, and we have to spend more maintenance, out of the capital fund and not in the general fund where we have to maybe tweak some of that on paper. That just gives a placeholder for that. That's we'll come back to the board next year about this time and probably discuss, we transfer some of that or not. If you don't put it in the budget, it's really hard to go back and try to do that, but it does give us that option. And then some of the other funds here that we've discussed. And no real changes there in the other funds from past meetings. And then enrollment, really no changes here. And as I indicated here, the projected enrollment down here, 18,400, and we're budgeting 18,430. So still pretty conservative, but given enrollment's just really hard to peg, over the last couple of years and even now. So hopefully these numbers come in where we're at here. It's even if they don't come in, we're short 50 to 100 kids. It's significant money, given the kind of revenue versus expenditures. We're looking at $1 million, in the big scheme of things is a lot when you're trying to balance the budget and looking for the next couple of years. And just an overview of the revenue budget. So 313 million, almost 314 million of revenues. You can see some of the changes here. The big changes are with the levy. We started getting some more money back in 2024. So that's why that increased from 2023 to 12.5 million. And the levy equalization also from 4 million to 10.4 million as the levy kicks in 2024. So in 24-25, this should go up a little more as we get the full amount back for a school year. And special education, some enrollment increase there and some legislative changes, a significant increase. But then again, we did add some staff there for next year. Transportation is a reimbursement basis, and ridership, we have got our ridership back, and costs have went up, so we did budget 9.9 million there, which is about what we'll receive this year. And food service, meals being served and reimbursement rate, that calls for a bit of an increase there in the budget. And then you see the ESSER money, 20 million budgeted there, $4.2 million over last year, 28.6 million increase for revenue. Just some stats there on the wages and benefits. The state did drop the retirement rate. You can see here, that is the drop. 14.69% is what employer contributions we pay, and that went down to 9.68% for next year. And that did create some savings, probably pretty much one time, about $800,000 of savings for the district, which was not expected. And then some of these staffing changes include the safety officers, special ed educators, counselors, some of those things we talked about. And there was a significant, probably 6 to 10 staff added earlier this school year that are part of this 18 and certificated staff. And for the future, given the outlook, this is, we're just not going to see this type of increase unless it's related to probably special ed, some of those type of programs. Here's the staff cost changes. Really, not really any changes there from what we've discussed. We focused on the top part, which is basic ed, local funded cost, about 10.1 million that was increased, and the bottom part is the non-basic ed increases that are funded with those program funds, and not a whole lot of increase there. So overall, 11.5 million of staff cost increase. And then the non-staff costs, again, really no changes here. We focused on the top part, which is the local basic ed funded. Overall, about $47.4 million of non-staff costs. And that increase is mainly from utilities, insurance, transportation, fuel, And then special ed, some contracts there. The city security resource officer contract, which adds those 3 middle school officers. And then large down here, the food service program and the ESSER money. Here's the 4.5 million that is committed to mental health services, tutoring, and the K-5 math adoption. So a change there, 8.1 million of non-staff costs. And then the state requires to show this slide here. This is the allocation of basic ed non-staff materials supply operating costs, 24.7 million. And we only budget 20 million. The rest of this goes to support staff costs. At least on paper, that's how it looks. Expenditure budget, $320 million for next year compared to 300 million this current year. And some of the changes there, $19.6 million change. You see the ESSER, 4.2 million change from last year there. And the budget of 9.9 million includes that 4.5 million of non-staff cost. And food service, another large increase there, given the meals they're serving and those costs related to that. Transportation up, some costs there, staff costs and fuel costs, mainly fuel costs 320,000. So increase there, 19.6 million in expenditures. And then that brings us to the budget summary here, 313 million. Here's a $28.6 million increase, $320 million of expenditures. And down here, $6.6 million, a little bit of shortage there, a placeholder there for transfer. $1 to $2 million is related to TriTech, and $3 million is just kind of a contingency in case we want to move some of that money. Again, beginning fund balance, $47 million, probably a little aggressive, but hopefully we can be around 45 million at least, and 35.9 million of fund balance. And this is a fund balance, just we have to break that out by a few categories here and there. And most of it is down here in the called other assigned or stabilization, whatever you want to call it, to keep things running for us and backfill some gaps. And then we have to show 4-year budget outlook. And this is the general fund with some enrollment projections up here. So as you can see, there's not really any projected increase in enrollment. There is some decrease for the out years here. What we have are some class sizes there of 1,400 students. And those are moving through, and then we're getting 1,200 students kind of moving up. So you move a senior class out, 1,400 students, you're only getting 1,200 students or 1,300 coming in. Hopefully that'll change by the time we get to some of these years out here. But down here at the bottom here, we're showing a 2025, 5.4 million, a little bit of shortfall there. Things can change, the state can come up with more money, enrollment can change, and that looks a little better. But as we get out here, 7.9, 10.1 million, those numbers would need to be looked at, and there'd have to be budget reductions if those numbers didn't change, revenues didn't go up, etc. But we'll keep an eye on that as we work through things next year. And then ending fund balance, if we got down here around 11 million, that's definitely can't do that. Some of these shortfalls, we've said we have to keep it below 5 million. Otherwise, there's just no way to dig out. You'd have to have a levy that would have to bring in well over $5 million more than we're getting now. So we'll keep an eye on that. Other funds, we're supposed to do the 4-year projections. Capital fund, here's a 23-24. Ridgeview is mainly the cost there, and then some contingency for various projects that could come up. And then the technology levy amount here. So really no huge projects projected, but we will budget some contingency and things will come up, and we'll be discussing that as we go through the capital fund during the year. Other funds, ASB, debt service, transportation vehicle, no changes there from what we discussed. Transportation, we're supposed to, this is 1.6 million, funds 8 buses. that'll be paid for next summer. And then we'll try to continue to do 5 to 7 buses each year. And then the self-insured fund, on paper, this doesn't look that great, but we do have a contingency budgeted in here just to have capacity in case we have some huge claims, and we don't expect that to happen. So with that, that's the general fund and the other funds and the 4-year projections. And we don't have to do a 4-year projection for the self-insured fund, so that's just 1 year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, Vic?
I do, but we're doing it now, or?
We're supposed to do that.
Oh, that's right, we're doing public.
We're-
We don't ask questions.
I think later.
After.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
Okay, if anyone in the audience would like to comment on the proposed 2023-24 budget, please raise your hand to be recognized at this time. You'll be asked to come forward to the podium to provide your comment. Please begin by stating your name for the record. Okay. All right, Vic, you did a very good job.
Nobody online either.
Going online? Good job, Vic. I feel like I need to ask you one question, but I can't think of one.
I got
Okay.
I got a couple.
Okay, wait, no. It was all about me at that moment.
I would
Okay.
just do like a last call and then it would be.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. See, guys,
Right here.
is it my due? I need to tell you that?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, Diane is helping me out here.
One more. There you
Oh, I don't read that first.
go. Okay, she already said there wasn't anybody online.
Okay, all right, last call for any person wishing to speak for or against the proposed 2023-24 budget. Last call. All right, seeing none, hearing none, and none online, I would now entertain a motion to adjourn. Wait, do we ask the question before we adjourn?
You just adjourn the hearing.
And then we
Okay,
can discuss.
all right. I would now entertain a motion to adjourn the hearing.
I move to adjourn the hearing.
Do we have a second?
A second.
No discussion, so let's have a roll call vote.
No, now we get to discuss.
No, we don't need to vote on it?
Yeah.
We have a motion, you got to
Oh,
vote on
yeah,
the motion.
yeah.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Ms. Dunbick,
Yes.
and Mr. Mabry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now.
For discussion and deliberation and action. All right, thank you guys for the help. So, questions, Gabe?
Vic, just a couple quick questions. One, our contracts, are those yearly contracts? Are they 3-year contracts? So like Team Read, tutoring, CIS, mental health, are those all renewed annually, or are those contracts that we have committed for like 3 years?
Yeah,
and then
they're
renewed
all
after that?
annual except communities and schools. I'd have to look at that one.
Okay,
I think there's a termination clause in that one,
gotcha.
but
Okay.
they're all pretty much 1 year.
Okay. And then,
Well, can I ask a clarifying question
oh, sure.
before you go on? So, okay, so on that particular one, you think it's probably more than 1 year, but there's a termination clause, so in essence, you could terminate it at any time, but,
There's probably something with notice. I mean, I could follow up and get that to you.
yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks.
And then I just noticed in here, when looking at the general fund, so our expenditures for salaries and benefits, that's 85% of our actual total expenditures in the district. So we have 15% of that 320 million is actually kind of money that we are able to use in other, like.
Well, that's the non-staff MSOC cost, right? So about, 80 to 85% is typical of school districts for staff salaries and benefits. And we're pretty thin on the non-staff.
But that's, I mean, that's gone to that already. So we have the 15% left that's just kind of for other things, other programs.
Hopefully
stuff like
we budgeted salaries maybe a little high, so we got a little flexibility there. Normally we try to do just, a little bit. Although it's been getting tighter every year since, as things tighten up, we try, okay, we can't really have as much flexibility there. We got to make things look better on paper, so.
And then do you have any idea or any estimate just alone, like what inflation has cost us? Just a couple million, just like the rising gas prices.
Yeah, there's
all that
inflation on the
stuff. I mean,
salaries. The inflation on the, the fuel is really significant. Even now, the prices have not come down. They went up since we talked about fuel 3 months ago. The state only gave us, I think, less than 3% for the MSOC increase. And, everything's, it's just well over 3% on cost. I mean, we do what we can to save. Most of the time that is more like, oh, we're going to eliminate this, software service and we're going to try to get something cheaper.
Yeah.
Or spend our money a little better
Yeah.
that way. It's really hard to negotiate any of those MSOC prices with any success.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Diane, wait.
Oh, did you?
Anything else? Diane?
On the special education, is that the final breakout from the state legislature from the changes? Or have we gotten that yet?
That is the final, whatever's in there is the final that we plugged in there for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then.
And it's some of it's about half is enrollment and probably the rest is
categories.
The change in the formula.
Okay. And then the other question on food service, with the legislature change on CEP, will that give us any more, or is that also in there?
That is also in there, although we did get our money that they stopped paying us, I think, in January, and the legislators did approve that for this year, and they went back and gave us the money they owed us, and that is in there for next year.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. We were just reporting. Well, adoption, no, we gotta do the adoption, I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah. So at this time, we would be asking the board for approval of adoption of the 2023-24 budget through resolution number 9 for 22-23 for adoption of the 23-24 budget.
All right, so do we have a motion for the adoption of the budget as presented?
I'll motion that we accept the proposal for the 22-23-24 Kennewick School District budget presented for adoption through resolution number 9, 22-23.
I'll second.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh. Okay, all right.
Go ahead, gavel someone.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion? No discussion. May we have the roll call vote, Barry?
Mr. Galbraith?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Ms. Sunbit?
Yes.
And Mr. Mabry?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, good deal. Now I can check it off. Let's check it off, okay. Now we're at the point for reports and discussions. Student goal report, course offerings, athletics and activity, mascot.
Okay, good evening again. Yeah, so we're coming tonight on an annual report where we want to really focus on our goal of having all of our students as engaged learners. As you're well aware, we have 3 goals for our students tonight. We want to talk about our engaged learners goal, where some of the descriptors or where we really want to focus on engaging students through accessing diverse course offerings, activities and athletics. We have a couple of our performance indicators and targets that are tied to this goal. One of them being that we wanted to have 85% or greater of our middle or high school students report having access to the diverse course offerings, activities, and athletics. And also that our goal is to have greater than 65% of our students in middle and high school participate in at least one athletic or activity. So we want to start with the measure of whether or not students feel they have opportunities for diverse course offerings and also for learning digital citizenship and social life and employment skills. The primary way that we collect this data is through student survey. So the survey results are up here for this coming year or this year and highlighted in yellow. And so you notice that overall as a district, we took a slight dip in regards to students, the percentage of students who reported having had opportunities to learn digital citizenship, social life and employment skills. We had some grade levels where it did increase. We had some where it dropped a little bit. One of the things that I think is noteworthy about this is that these skills are really outlined within our learner profile. They are the skills that make up the learner profile. And so one of the things we've been doing this year is scaling up the learner profile in terms of visibility and reference. And so there's a chance, I don't have any evidence to support this other than there's a chance that we may have more students who realize what those skills are and may be reporting that, oh, now that I understand these skills a little bit better, I'm seeing some gaps. And we have a real treat at the end of our presentation where we want to talk a little bit about that from a student perspective. The other survey item that we take a look at is whether or not students have access to diverse course offerings, activities, and athletics. And we're right around the same level that we've been at in previous years with this. But I do have some other insights as we kind of look at it because we're constantly trying to make sure that these are correct numbers, that we're looking at the right data. So that these are survey results, and so our students are reporting again, with some places where it has increased, some places where it's gone down a little bit, but typically about 89%, 88% of our students are feeling that they do have access to diverse course offerings. What are these diverse course offerings? They're listed out here, but they are very evident in our KSD course catalog. And so again, we have obviously a lot more elective classes at our high schools, but we do have a wide variety within the performing, visual, fine arts, our CTA program, and other electives offered to students in both middle and high school. So when we look at athletic participation rates, what we want to look at is the number of students who are participating in a sport. And we work really hard to get an unduplicated count of students. And so if you're a 3-sport student or a 1-sport student, you're counted within this. And so you can kind of see the fluctuations as we go as compared to the last 2 years. So obviously coming off of years where we had limitations in regards to activities, we really wanted to see some rebounding of our participation rates, and that's what we've seen across the district and at our schools. There are a little bit of ups and downs within those schools, but overall we had 71% of our eligible age students, so that's 7th and 8th graders at middle school, and our high school students who did participate in sports, which is really good. This is kind of a really busy chart, but it shows you the numbers. And so these are duplicated counts. So you might have been a student who participated in football and you might have participated in basketball as well. So these are just the numbers reported from each of our middle schools in regards to which activities our students are participating in. When we look at high school athletics, again, we wanted to see and make sure that we're getting good rebounds in terms of our participation. Again, some of the places where you might see a drop in total, like you notice Kennewick at the top there, I really believe what we've been doing is honing in on the collection of this data. It's really challenging to get unduplicated counts. And so one of the systems that we want to work on improving for next year is the ability to use our student information system to gather this information because there's times when you're looking at the data and it doesn't seem to make sense in terms of the ups and downs, but this should be unduplicated counts, and we feel pretty good about this year having those unduplicated counts. So 644 students at Kennewick and 544 at Kennewick 602 at Southridge, and then the district at 1790 out of the 24. And so again, good percentages or good participation. Similar breakdown when we're looking at our high school athletic participants by sport. And so you can kind of see again, just the numbers of students that are participating in each of those activities. We have a couple of schools, or like gymnastics is a school or is a sport that at Kennewick High they just don't have necessarily the interest in. So we do, that's kind of reflected there. However, again, kind of just shows you the overall numbers and participation in those activities. We recognized JROTC earlier this evening for their competitions. We've also reported out every year for the last several years just kind of our participation rate for JROTC. And so we had a total of 86 students participating, and they do participate both at their home high school, Kennewick High, or if they're at another school, they will come to Kennewick High to participate in JROTC. 48 students, so we were up this year in our year one students. We do have some attrition that happens through that program, but we had 6 students who had enrolled for a 4th year in JROTC, which is pretty close to what it's been. But again, those numbers in terms of just the increase in year one and year two are really strong as well. And total numbers being up a little bit from last year.
Matt, can a student enrolled, let's say as a senior, they decide they want to do JROTC, can they enroll as a senior, or do they have to get in the program their freshman year?
I will have to double check on it, but I believe they can enroll year one at any time. I don't believe that there's a limit. You don't have to get in as a freshman. So this is just an indication of how many have been in JROTC for multiple years.
Okay.
But I can double check that, and we can make sure we get make sure I'm right on that. So when we get into our co-curricular activities, this is a place where, again, with full transparency, we need to do some work in our data collection. Typically, this information is pulled off of end-of-year reports that are submitted by club advisors and activity advisors at each of their schools. And so they get this information, they get it into their principals at the end of the year. We try to gather it from them. And if we see things that are kind of crazy, oftentimes what we find is that those folks have already taken off for the summer, and we have a hard time reconciling some numbers. So our goal in gathering this information and what we're going to be working on to develop a better system to do next year is to, again, get an unduplicated number of students at each of our schools, middle and high, that are participating in some sort of activity that is not athletics or co-curricular activity. So again, when you look at some of the discrepancies that you see over the data over the last few years, it's really evident that, hey, there might be some duplicated count here, particularly at Horse Heaven Hills, where they have 827 students, but 1,000 who participated in clubs. So we're going to do a much better job bringing this data to you in the future. However, so I kind of excluded Horse Heaven Hills just to kind of get a feel for where we're at. And again, probably about 33% of our students, which I think is probably a pretty accurate number, participate in some sort of club activities in middle school. But at any rate, it is an area that we need to shore up in regards to our data collection. At our high school, we gather the same information from them, and so you kind of see, again, a comparison between this year and last year in regards to the sports numbers. Again, I believe that the percentage drop is more related to our accuracy of count than it is to students just not wanting to participate in clubs. So again, we'll have some better information to share with you as we approach this report in coming years. But one of the things that we wanted to point out is, particularly with those co-curricular sports, is that many of those of the clubs, co-curricular clubs are student initiated, and we wanted to highlight one for you this evening. And so I've invited Ashwin Joshi to come and to present some information to you about the ATFA, which is a financial literacy club that Ashwin started at Southridge, and I want him to share a little bit of information with you.
So this is a group, so I see here it's passing down. One more.
Good evening, Kennewick School District. My name is Ashwin Joshi, and I am the founder and president of the Southridge ATFA Financial Club and ATFA, the 501c3 organization. Together, they have the mission of making sure every kid, regardless of circumstance, money, race, gender, is able to learn critical life skills such as budgeting and saving, the stock market, credit, taxes, so that any kid can reach their maximum potential. And today, I come before you following that mission because over the course of these 3 months, I have decided to focus my full efforts as a rising senior towards a research survey study that assesses Southridge students' financial literacy according to the National Financial Literacy Standards, and at the very end, asking kids on a scale from 1 through 10, how prepared do you feel in facing real-world challenges and financial issues after high school? And the heartbreaking thing is only 22% of kids, of the 324, roughly 20% of Southridge's population felt either prepared or exceptionally prepared on a 7 to 10 scale, leaving over 3/4 of those 324 students feeling unprepared or developing preparedness, really showcasing how big of a disparity it is in what seems to be after high school. We have to face the reality of living in a capitalist society. Every single one of us makes money-making decisions every single day. It doesn't matter what type of direction you want to go into, what type of education pathway, every single person needs a financial education. And I can understand why almost 20 years ago, why the decision to remove the mandate for consumer economics happened. But today is different. Today we have over $30 trillion of debt. Inflation is skyrocketing. Americans are it's more and more statistically higher that Americans are living from paycheck to paycheck. And it's not so much as an issue about salaries, it's an issue about how prepared kids are getting in dealing with financial matters. And that strongly links to the amount of forces influencing a kid to take a class. And we do have the infrastructure. We have classes like Life 101. And we have mandates for math, English, science, but we don't have a mandate for even one. It could be even a semester of financial literacy, but just something that incorporates this important life skill, because all kids need this to be proactive, innovative, and accountable as the district's motto, and to be prepared after high school. And not only by critically reflecting on what this data means, and by thinking about instilling a mandate to get added to our core curriculum, it will create more independent people and more successful individuals like the district aims us to be. It will also create smarter policymakers in the future who will advocate for education and say yes to more common sense policies like the levy. This is something that we all need to bind together in because it's our futures. Thank you.
So Ashwin's kind of shared the vision for around the club. There was another slide because in his passion, he didn't advance it, but that's fine with some of that information. But do you have any questions at this time, either for me or for Ashwin in regards to the student club that he founded and is promoting, or anything else in the presentation?
Sorry.
Do you want to say something first?
I just want to make sure, just to clarify, I've given you these reports and information as I gave a lot of information during that presentation. I hope this adds more valid measures to how the data was aggregated and analyzed, along with the 9-page report that I couldn't have done it just by myself. I had lots of help, lots of teachers, and it's not just me, it's a community, and only through that are we able to progress.
So how many students, Ashwin, did you have at Southridge that are in this group?
Yes. All right. So at the Southridge Financial Chapter, we just recorded 238 registered members. And we have other locations at Richland and Kennewick High School, and together we have a member base of 317 in person. And we have our online financial academy that has over 1,500 online members.
Excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
What does it look like? Like, what do you guys do? How often do you meet? You know, kind of what does an average month or semester or whatever look like?
Of course. So we meet every Tuesday during lunch in room B110.
Every Tuesday?
Every Tuesday. And what we do is we do lessons. We have, because a lot of community-based organizations love what we're doing, we have part of HFG Trust is our sponsor, and they provide guest speakers. Even we worked something out with GISA, and they had guest speakers come occasionally. And we do competitions, like for example, just the week before our final meeting, we had a Shark Tank week where kids got into groups of 4 and they pitched, they have 5 minutes to come up with an idea. Then they go up, they have 1 minute exactly to pitch their idea. And we had judges and everything. It's all actually on our YouTube channel, and that can definitely be showed to you afterwards if you're interested in seeing
And
that.
that's all done every, or lunch, just during the lunch period?
Exactly, from 10:50 to 11:20.
Okay, so we gotta go quick then.
Of course.
I got a couple things. So first, Ashwin, I want to be clear. So what you're bringing to us is that you want to see financial literacy included in the core curriculum. So like as almost a mandate, right?
As a mandate.
That
yes.
we ensure that kids are at least getting some level of literacy similar to kind of what you've got there. So, okay, I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. Second, this isn't a question, but I have to share this because I think it's important. So Ashwin reached out to me a couple weeks back, and we had a Zoom call, and you can see how passionate he is right here. He was passionate like this for the 40 minutes that we were on the Zoom call, and just delivering phenomenal information to me. And the more he talked about it, I could see how he's going to continue to pursue this at the school. And I really appreciated him reaching out and bringing this to my attention, and now obviously to the board. So I appreciate that. Ashwin, you've done a great job, and I will tell you, the orange blazer is stunning.
Thank you. I appreciate you. You're too kind. Thank you.
I just also want to say a few words about Ashwin. So toward the beginning of this school year, Ashwin and his a fellow student asked to meet with me, and they met with Rhonda Pratt, who's our Director of Secondary Education, and me, and they laid out all of this work that they were doing on the club formation, and was just, you know, wanting to make sure that we were aware of the club and advocating for it to be, you know, for the district's support of the club and so forth. I know over the course of the year you met with Grandin Lord in our business office about some of the aspects of the 501c3 portion of his club, and kind of converging with the ASB. Since that time, the club's expanded.
Yes.
I've, you know, talked with Mr. Williamson up at Southridge, and just, you know, you guys showed me some assembly footage. You expanded the club to Richland, to Kennewick, and now, you know, Ashwin reached out to share some of the, actually it was when I was at Southridge recently for a visit. We met with Mr. Williamson, and he, Ashwin was able to show all of the data that he collected through the student survey, and was really excited to have the opportunity to present information to the board. So as we were planning for the activities presentation tonight, it was just the perfect time for the board to be able to hear directly from a student about a student-initiated club, and it connects directly with conversation that the board had at the study session just a couple of weeks ago about some of what we're looking to do as a district in terms of ensuring that students are well prepared for their future, which is one of our strategic goals. So I just want to compliment you, Ashwin, for your your enthusiasm, your advocacy, and your professionalism in presenting to the board this evening.
Thank you. You're really too kind. I really appreciate that.
I actually have a couple more questions though. That's okay.
Yes, of course. Ask away. I'd love to.
King Ron, can I ask a couple questions? Yeah, sure.
No, I want to save mine, so let's go now. Seriously, because you may cover it. You may cover it. Your question.
Okay, I mean, you're the boss, so I'll just, whatever you say. So I'm kind of curious about, like, you grew it, you expanded it to Kennewick, not to Kennewick, but to Kennewick.
Okay, so with Kennewick High School, we've been actively trying to work on incorporating, adding a program there. We recently gave a presentation in Kennewick through Nasreen, who works at KSD, and that was definitely very exciting. We'll have to see what happens. I know for now, Kiwanis, Tri-Cities I gave a presentation there, and I think in the fall we're going to establish a sort of curriculum sharing partnership type thing where they will get access to our guest speakers and our curriculum, because look, I'm not trying to do this for a name or anything. I'm trying to do this because it's something that I firmly believe in. Every kid should have it. And I want to say, like, I couldn't have came up with the club. I couldn't have done this without the district being there. But I also understand that change is not made unless someone speaks up about it. And I'm only 17, so I'm not saying that I have the knowledge to teach a class. I'm advocating for incorporating a mandate using the existing infrastructure already made and making a broader appeal to get to kids. Because with the survey structure, we asked all the questions according to the national financial literacy standards, and then asked kids the self-reported question. Because look, as a teenager, I understand how we think, right? And we often tend to overestimate our abilities. And really, that was the whole purpose of putting those questions first, because I wanted to get as honest of a self-reported measure as I could. And this is the same thing about making a class optional, but.
Okay, so at Kamayakin, where you got somebody, so it's just a matter of you reaching out. You've reached out to kids. You've talked to kids.
100%.
And then they're follow the same format, and then you must share information, and you get
100%.
the same kind of speakers and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool that you've done that. Just for the record, I totally agree with you that the financial literacy is really, really important, and it's one of the most important subjects that our kids can learn. So I'm really impressed at how you grew it, and I think that's really cool. I just want to say nice job.
You're too kind. Thank you. And I have to appreciate our donors and supporters who've also played such a big role in letting us expand further. Like, it's not, I like to call it's not just a me thing, it's a movement that's led by students. It's all of us. It's advocation for a better future. Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
I also would like to say, you're not mine, but I'm very proud of you. This is a great step. But I want to challenge you on a couple of things.
Of course.
I'm a student, and I can barely make it to school. And I certainly can't afford to spend money on anything else. All I'm worried about is getting by on a day-to-day basis. Maybe I'm living out of my car. So what would you say, how would you encourage this student to be a member of your club?
I would explain that, look, I cannot change your circumstances. I can't change what your family issues, whatever, monetary. I don't have control over that. But what I do have control over is making sure that if you join us, you'll have access to our online academy. You'll have access to guest speakers. You'll have access to someone who, no matter wherever or whenever you need to give someone a call, I gladly give my number to any kid. And I tell them, anytime you need to call me, doesn't matter how busy I am, I will be there for you. And I want to make sure that you are cared about, and I will do my best to help you.
Very good. Okay. Right now, student voice is very big on legislators and people on the Hill. Have you contacted our legislators or those folks, especially Rectal or Dr. I just say his name wrong.
Rectal.
Rectal.
Dr. Recto.
Yeah, to discuss possible that this could be something that the whole state could benefit from.
And that's what so you're talking about the Washington superintendent, right?
Public instruction.
Public instruction superintendent. So I did try calling the assistant a couple of times. I should have been more proactive. I should have called more, but I called like a couple of times through different days. I gave some voicemails. I didn't get a response. And I mean, like, the truth is, like, I think I do want to push at the legislative level, but first I need to I also need to prove myself as well, right? Like, if I'm not even able to convince my own school district to like incorporate a mandate, then how am I supposed to go onto the state level? I need to make sure that I'm capable of that type of responsibility.
Okay, when you convince yourself, you let me know and we can help you out on the higher level. Seriously.
To talking with them.
Yeah, we can help with that.
Yeah.
When you're ready. No pressure. Next week.
I'm ready today. I'm ready now.
We'll do it tomorrow.
To stand for my future today.
Have you checked with the other districts throughout the state? Because there are some districts that do have financial literacy classes.
Richland.
So do you know which districts do have that?
So I know Richland School District has a mandate, and that's it. That is a semester. And my friend, actually one of the board of directors of the organization, Sahir Tandon, he's a student at Richland High School, and he explained like the class extremely helped him better understand financial matters and a lot of his buddies, and that's also why I think if Richland can do it, we just as well can do it as well. Thank you.
One more question and a comment. Sorry. Super
course.
fast. Super fast. A really good message for that kid that Ron is referring to is saying that, hey, I can't help you with your personals, with what happened in the past, but I can help unlock the future. We live in America, so we can do anything. So
Exactly.
it's a matter of having the tools. I can help provide you with the tools so that you can unlock your future and you can have that financial literacy and you can have that. So that's a really good message, and your thing is the empowerment side. So I would definitely lean into that. And the last question I have is, how do kids join the club?
They join by coming to at least one meeting. I mean, it's completely free, and
They just find you in the hallway and
yeah,
hunt you down?
Literally, you could ask any kid. Actually, you know what? I can guarantee. Ask any kid at Southridge. As long as they go to the school, they will know about our financial club because
Okay.
I advocate a lot for it.
Good job. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ashwin. Really
And-
well done.
Thank you. And
Mabry.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready for it as soon as possible. That's why I made this study.
Okay, let's talk, because you're right. You are correct when you said that, hey, you need to work in your district first. We really want a polished product when we start talking to that level. So I want you to get ready and be ready and have your stats and everything, and yeah, convince all of us, which you already have, but before we take it on that level, but I'm willing to help you with connections on that level.
Thank you so much.
And so can these other folks too, especially Diane, because she's our alleged rep, so she has some contacts on that level.
And for all the students, this has always been my mission, and I will gladly do it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Such a pleasure. Thank you.
Great.
If you have any questions on the study,
What's up, bud?
please let me know.
I get a hold of them. All right. Is that your parents back there?
Yes.
You guys should be extremely proud of what he's doing. Great.
And if it's possible, here's some stuff
We
about
got some
our
business
website as
cards. Okay,
well.
yeah, let's do it.
Thank you.
Last thing
Always hand out your cards first, right?
Yes.
Can I have more than one, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we take a selfie
Good
too,
job.
Ashwin?
Oh, I will. Here, I'll share a couple with you. Do you want to take a selfie with us?
You want to take a picture with us?
You can put it on your website.
Let's get a picture here. Just come right up front, yeah.
Yeah, you put, you right there, and then we'll stand behind you.
Yeah, do you have other team members here?
Yeah, get up
Yeah,
there.
whoever.
Can you get
Oh,
on there?
not this guy. Come on in.
Just kidding.
Get up there. Can you get all of this?
This is Parker's phone. Are you ready?
Yeah, Mom,
Can you
get in,
see all
get
of
up there,
this?
Mom.
Can you say everything?
2, 3. I can see everybody. Diane's right in the middle. Do you want mom and dad in too? Do you want me?
Sure.
Sure, yeah.
No.
Yeah, get in here.
Okay. You got yours?
You're
Quiet. Dad, can you get in a little bit
Squeeze
closer?
in.
Oh, no, you're good.
Just squish
There
it.
we go. Okay, now I'll get on
One more, one
Oh,
more.
one more. Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, one more. Thinking. Like a smartphone, 2 smartphones.
iPhone 7.
Not smart enough.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, 1 second. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Got them all.
Nice.
Thank you
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Ashwin.
it. Yes, yes, of course. Great kid, great kid.
Thank you so much. He's a great guy.
Good job.
You bet.
You passed them out and then you didn't have
I
enough.
gave them all to
Yeah.
Mr. Mabry.
We'll work on that.
I
You
just
got
need
2?
one, I'm gonna take a picture.
Thanks, Ashwin.
Okay, you guys want to take extras too? So let's learn this job and he can come with her. When Vic retires? There you go.
Oh, I suppose they're working on it.
Yes, we should.
All right.
It's too exciting.
Next, we're gonna have Mr. Phillips come up and talk to us about volunteer data for the schools for 2023.
All right, good evening. So when I looked at tonight's agenda, I thought, oh, okay, I'm following Matt Scott. I can do that. That's a tough one to follow.
You need,
That was awesome.
you need a really cool blazer like that. I'm sorry.
I forgot the
Ashwin.
blazer. Okay,
Well,
so-
This is not your last presentation, is it?
It's what?
Yes, it is.
Well, I'm thinking it is, but
Dr. Pierce may change her mind.
yes, that's true. Okay, so earlier this school year, you asked for us to take a look at volunteers in schools and volunteer data. And so I'm here tonight to talk a little bit about that. As you know, one of our strategic goals is that the community will be important collaborators. And so one of the annual objectives is that we will continue to provide opportunities for community members to participate in district and school committees and volunteer in our schools. And then one of the performance indicators at the bottom, it says that more than 2,500 community members will volunteer in our schools or in the district each year. So this shows that that target of 2,500 community members, for this school year, HR, who is responsible for all of our volunteer applications, we had 4,438 people who applied to be a volunteer. Their application was accepted. So well over 4,000. Last year we had 2,335 people whose applications were accepted, people who applied to be a volunteer in our district. Of course, that year was at the tail end of COVID, so that number it's not a perfect number, but that 4,438 that we accomplished this year actually is pretty much where we were pre-COVID. So there are a lot of opportunities for people in our community, families, parents to volunteer in our schools and in our districts. So they could volunteer like in their child's classroom, or they could be a chaperone on field trips, or work at school events like carnivals and jogathons and so forth. They could volunteer in our elementary schools, the ones who have Team Read. They could volunteer in our middle school mentoring programs, so United Way and AmeriCorps. We have various district committees. They could volunteer through our school's ATPs, our Action Team for Partnerships, PTOs, parent advisory committees, booster clubs. There are a lot of opportunities for people to be involved in individual schools if they'd like to, or in the district as a whole. We have on our website at ksd.org/community/volunteer. It talks about each one of those bulleted items, and so people could go to that place on our website to find out information on where they could volunteer. So this table shows volunteer hours by elementary school. And it says September through April, but really we started collecting the data in November, not in September. But you can see how many volunteer hours each of our elementary schools had in those 6 months, for a total of just over 12,000 hours. You can see that we have some schools that really went for it and had a lot of volunteer hours in their school, like Cascade, Sagecrest, and Sunset View. This table shows pretty much the same thing, only it's our secondary schools. It has the 5 middle schools at the top, followed by MCP, and then after that are 3 comprehensive high schools. When you look at that, one of the obvious things you see, and I see a couple smiles, is that, you know, Southridge with the 55.5 hours. I really can't speak to why that is. I tried to kind of ask around on why that might be. The only thing I can come up with is that, like, maybe they misunderstood exactly what we were tracking, or they had just a different vision of what volunteer hours really meant, as opposed to, say, at Kennewick or Kennewick. I mean, Kennewick had pretty much 9,000.
And are you confident in that number as well? Because those two numbers look like, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't know how they came up with the numbers. I don't know. I can speak to elementary, because I know in elementary we talked at a principal's meeting about, so what kind of things might we want, what hours would we include, what are some things that maybe we wouldn't include, but we talked about what are the hours that we want to count. So when Matt Scott was talking about we probably need to do a better job next year about how we talk with schools about how we count. In his case, what he was talking about was participation. We probably are going to need to do, and when I say we, I mean we.
Just got to put that in there.
But, yeah, but we'll just need to do a better job of being really clear to principals about what we're looking for. What are we really tracking? And then making sure that as the months go by that we're really watching that. And if we see something like, Southridge had 2 volunteer hours in December, that we pick up the phone and call the principal and say, so tell me about that.
Athletics. I was at Southridge High School today. They had a basketball camp. There was some parents volunteering. Maybe they're not counting that.
I know they have a lot of volunteer hours.
Yeah.
I have a friend that volunteers at every game, so she would have been more than 55.5 hours herself. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. So can I ask you real quick then about, just because I know you're more specific to the elementary, how do we have some of the disparity like we do? So like 200 and 244 hours at Washington and Ridgeview, and then a bunch of these schools are 500, 600, 800. Is it again just counting, or is it events? Like some of these schools doing 50 events for the year and others are doing 20. Like, I mean,
that could be part of it. Some schools do more events, which depending upon the event, require more volunteers. At first, when I thought about that question, that I kind of thought we would talk about, I thought, well, okay, so maybe it's the size of school. like Sagecrest had almost 2,000 hours, and Sagecrest is like our third largest school. But that bears out with Sagecrest, but not the other large schools. And you look at Sunset View, they had over 1,000 hours, but they're one of our smallest schools. So it's not the size of the school. Some schools just go after it, maybe more than others. Some buildings just have that culture. Like I'm fairly knowledgeable about Sagecrest, and I know that there's been built into that community a culture of having people come into their school. I can speak to Cascade at 1,400 hours. I mean, I know that the principal, Julie Nelson, that's really been a target of hers this year. We've talked about that a number of times. It's something that she really wanted to improve on this year.
Yeah, I actually met with Julie last year, and we talked about that as well. So I don't know if this is a stupid thing to say, but I'm kind of proud of Julie for doing such a good job. And really, I mean, because I think that was one of the lowest before, and now it's right. It's like the second, third highest. So I can ask a couple questions. And now is now a good time or not a good time?
Sure, Mr. Baber, you're the boss.
Okay, so a couple things. So last year we talked about, or maybe a year and a half ago, we talked about like we had all the schools itemize all the different ways that they could, right? So and a lot of schools had 50 things they were doing, and some schools had 3, right? And then so. What do we do with that? Like, what was the next step that happened after that? What's the follow-up on that?
So I know at the elementary level, I can't speak to the others, but at the elementary level, we talked about, and I do remember that we presented to the board on that. We talked before that board meeting about what kinds of things would go on that list, because I know there were some people who had a few things. But when I went through the list, I didn't do it necessarily by school, but I just kind of went through the list and said, so here are some things that people have included. And there were schools that were like, oh, I never thought of that one. Oh, I forgot about that one. And then after we presented to the board, then I went back and talked with principals just about and then I said, this is something that the board is really interested in. And we, of course, should be interested in as well, because we all believe that it's important to have, community members, parents in our schools. It's really important. Sure. So we had a conversation afterwards. It wasn't a very long. It wasn't long and in depth, but we did talk about that as a follow-up.
So maybe that's like something that we need to, you have something to say?
Yeah, I would say, I think when this issue first came up, and it was coming really off the heels of COVID, and not only is it one of our strategic goals, we wanted to ensure that, we were reopening our schools and, with welcoming arms to our community. So the first, that year we did an inventory just to get a good sense of what is. And as Rob said, it was maybe not completely perfect because people interpret things differently. And so having the follow-up conversation about, well, like making sure that was a pretty accurate inventory of the kinds of events and activities that are going on in schools. That then led to, I believe, the interest in tracking the volunteer, setting the target for the number of volunteers that we have in the system, which we set the target based on the 21-22 number, which was under 2,500, set the target to over 2,500, and then, far exceeded the target. And then tracking the hours by school. What we haven't done, which we could do, and, if that's something that the board has an interest in, and I think we do too, is really set kind of a minimum expectation, right, for schools around the number of community events and things that are held. What I don't want to do is set a minimum expectation that the vast majority of schools are way exceeding, and have it have the adverse, effect that, oh, I guess we don't have to be doing all those things. I don't think that would happen. But if that's where, if I guess what we need to do is, now that we have this data and this information, is maybe look for those schools. I mean, we can see them there that we have questions or wonders and concerns about, and then work individually with those schools to actually find out, are you truly tracking everything, and how many events and things are you having do we have outliers?
So, yes, piggybacking off of that, the counting of it. So I think maybe we need to like go back and give them clearly defined, like define what that is and kind of, so you don't have these Kennewick who, I don't know what, this number's like crazy, right? And then, and so understanding like how people track it. So make that uniform, right? And communicate that. Okay. So, one thing that I've heard from multiple people when they asked me about coming into schools is they said, do they still have these waivers, these COVID waivers, and I'm not going to do that. And, so maybe that could be something that we could kind of communicate that out again to just make sure that people understand that. I guess, Robin, you mentioned that our volunteer base is about what it was pre-COVID. Right?
Yes.
So now I'm thinking like, what can we do to expand that? One idea potentially is having like a roaming position. So like, I know that Sagecrest, because that's where my youngest daughter goes, right? They do have a culture. I mean, she comes home like every other day, like Dad, you got to come to this thing. Dad, you have to come to this thing. I want to go to it so bad. So they do have that. So like, but are there, can we like, as people are volunteering to sign up, can we say like, hey, are you interested in going to other schools? Like, and then just really actually offering that to people for some of these schools that have a ton of them, right? So then they can send to Washington or to wherever, because there's probably a lot of people who would do that. So those are some of my comments is maybe we can like develop like a roaming position and kind of like build a list and you know what I mean?
Yeah, to see if people would be interested in volunteering in other schools.
Yes, and ask them that specific question and try to build that list and that little community of people who will go to other schools.
So one of the things that we talked about the last time we discussed this was some parents are not able to volunteer because they're working 2 and 3 jobs.
Yep.
And so I think we need to be very cognizant of the fact that just because a number may be low doesn't mean that a building doesn't have parents who are caring and people who are volunteering too, but they're very limited often because if it's afternoon, evening, or during the day, many people cannot attend those things. So I think we have to be really careful. I like your idea of having I don't know, a soft number of things to do, but I also want to be really careful that we're not pounding on people who are doing the very best to get parents there, but parents can't always be there.
Which is why, so that's the regurgitation of the issue, but like the solution would be, like one possible solution is, like building a list of parents who do these high volume schools that can go to other schools, right?
Yeah, I want our parents to know that those who can, we are more than pleased to have them there, and those who can't, we understand, and they support their children in other ways. Just numbers are not the only way we show that, and I know you know that, but I just want our parents to understand that we know that too.
Yeah, and there's also, we're kind of mixing, there's a difference between community events and inviting people to come and attend community events versus opportunities for volunteering, reading to kids or doing things like that, so.
Library.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I will say, just, we have like a Ridgeview staff member here. I looked at Ridgeview and I thought that's not out of the norm for Ridgeview. But when you think about where Ridgeview is today, it would make sense. I mean, they're completely across town from where those volunteers would come from.
I want to add one other thing for sort of the community that Diane is talking about. There's more ways to volunteer. Even if you're working, you could take brochures to work and share that, hey, event is coming up at my son's or daughter's school. But we need to tell those folks that here's an alternative way that you can help in the community. Hey, there's a cleanup day coming Saturday. And some of my co-workers show up on Saturday, meet me at Saturday, and we're doing hours worth of work, even if it's an hour, you're volunteering. So reach the people that Diane is talking about and inform them how they can help, because they may think that there's no way I can volunteer. I just don't have the time, I don't have the resources. But there are ways you can do it.
There are.
Do we know what Julie did? Do we know what she did to like improve her so much?
I think a lot of it was she had more activities. Like one of the activities she did, which I I don't think anyone else had thought of was she took our new learner profile and had an evening around the learner profile. So that I think there are 5 different areas of the learner profile. They had 5 different places set up where parents could go with their children and find out about each one of those areas. That was just a really unique thing. But I think that's been a big part of it.
Yeah, and that was great. There were a lot of parents and grandparents at that.
It was a really good event.
I think of that reading event that we went to and how the kids interacted with us, and we were there, 30, 40 minutes?
Yeah,
that was a great opportunity for the community to also get involved with the reading program and show the kids that they can influence even the parent to get to read more. You just volunteered to be with kids for an hour.
Right.
It's just an example of alternative ways to help.
Yeah, I would just add the data is only as good as the information behind it. So we need to make sure we have the set expectation and the standard that everybody's following. So then we can ensure when we review this data again, we know it's good numbers, good metrics. Yeah, because obviously Kennewick and Southridge are one's left hand, one's right hand. We're 2 different pages there. So yeah, so I look forward to seeing the next iteration of it.
So efforts to promote volunteering in schools. So I mentioned before, we have information about volunteering on our website. We do different things as a district and as individual schools to let parents know that, or parents and community to let them know that we have a need. Schools will send out, newsletters, or they'll use Parent Square to say, hey, we're having this activity. We need X amount of parents. Please volunteer. For the district, we need parents for the community engagement board, for example, and so we put that on the website. Also, the instructional materials committee. So we put that on our website to let people know we have this need. If you're interested, please let us know. And then for the volunteer recognition for the district volunteer recognition, we had a tea at a board meeting in May where we recognized volunteers who at the district level, but schools do the same thing. And we talked about that at a principals meeting maybe a couple months ago, just about, it's wonderful that you are doing things to get people into your building, but it's really important to recognize them. And so when we went around the room, everybody kind of reported out, every school except for one they already had something ready to go. And that person said, but we will this year. So every school, every elementary school, I can't speak for secondary, does something for their volunteers.
So, Rob, I want to say, when I went to Hawthorne for their volunteer recognition, they were very smart. So here were all the snacks and where you signed in, but here was to sign up for next year and what you would want it to do and your email and your phone number. And I thought, that is so smart. Because then they will be able to contact people in the fall. So that was a good way to do it.
Good idea.
No snacks until you sign up.
Got it. I like that. So we all know that as a district, we're stronger if we have community members, parents coming into our schools and collaborating with us and working with us. It just makes us stronger. So as a school district and as 17 elementaries and all the secondary schools, we need to kind of maybe take a page from Cascade where they thought about what can we do to get more parents in. So they created some of these things, made it a more welcoming environment. And then what's really important is once you get them in, you need to make sure that they're welcomed and that they're valued for the time that they spent. That I think that's just going to be really important going forward.
Yes.
So if I may, I want to take just a moment to recognize Rob, and which is why I made him do this presentation tonight, because I put him on the agenda for doing this, and then Matt said, oh, no, I told Rob I would do it. And I said, no, I want Rob to do it because I want the opportunity to recognize Rob, because we all know Rob is retiring after a long career dedicated to public education and to service to students and families. So I want to share just a little bit about Rob's career, and he started in education at Liberty Christian School in Richland. He taught 4th grade in Benton City for 3 years. He completed his administrative internship there, and then Kennewick School District was fortunate to hire Rob as a 4th grade teacher at Southgate Elementary in 1991. The following year, Rob was hired by Othello School District as an assistant principal, and he served in that position for 2 years before being asked by the superintendent there to serve as a junior high principal. So Rob then served in that role for 3 years and then got to return to elementary level and served as 2 years as elementary principal. So Rob shared with me that he told the principal, I'll do it only if I get to return to elementary school, which he did. Then Kennewick was fortunate to hire Rob back. And we did that in July of 1999. And he served as principal at Amistad Elementary for 5 years. And then again, at the request of the superintendent at that time, Rob was asked to move to middle school. So Rob said yes, as long as I get to return to elementary. So Rob moved to be the principal at Park Middle School for 4 years, then again got to return to elementary, and he was principal at Washington Elementary for 8 years. He remained at Washington until Sagecrest was open. So he was the principal who opened Sagecrest in 2016. Yep, he served there for 3 years. And then in 2019, he was hired to be assistant superintendent for elementary education. And so I joined the district at the same time Rob became assistant superintendent. And so I've had the privilege of working with Rob, alongside Rob, as long as I've been here. Gonna get a little weepy, Rob. And I've really appreciated your leadership and your dedication. You're a hard worker. You're an inspiring leader. And, he's been working hard up to the end. He did the boundary process, which is
over and over.
Yeah, a lot. And even, he was like, okay, about the presentation tonight. Just, we'll do whatever he's asked. And so, Rob, thank you for your service and congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And you did a great job following Ashwin, Rob.
Yes, you did. You made it number later.
Right.
Good evening. I'm here to provide an annual report on Get to Know KSD. So real quickly, this Get to Know KSD ties into our family goal. So our goal is that all families are key partners and that parents have the opportunities to learn about school programs. So that's really what we focus on with the Get to Know KSD sessions. So this year we held 7 informational sessions between November and April. And I want to say, I think Diane attended almost all of them except for one. So that would be an 85% attendance rate. They took place in the evenings here at the Administration Center. We're trying to schedule them at convenient times for families so they could attend. We did have the option of childcare. This year we didn't have anyone take us up on childcare. And the district strategic goals guided how the topics were selected. And we promoted the sessions through our e-news and our website and our social media and basically any way we could to get the word out about them. And then to make sure that people had the opportunity to watch them at a time that was convenient for them, we video recorded every session and posted it to our YouTube channel. And we promoted the sessions later using our school communication tools. So the first one we held was our safety and prevention in November. And this was well attended, I would say, fairly well attended, not really. Diana, I'm thinking back. So we had more views online and people that were interested in it.
Online was always.
Not a lot of in-person attendees at this session. Great information shared, and we partner with Kennewick Police Department for that. Also in November, we had the getting the most out of technology tools. And then in December, we had our family engagement and volunteering session. And in January, this was also a invitation event. So we really tried to drive participation from the community and family members at this event. And that's why we had a higher attendance for this. And this was a State of the District presentation. And it also focused on information around our educational programs and operations levy. And in March, we did a Supporting the Whole Child, and where this comes into are a lot of our community partners that we have here in the district. So we invite our community partners to present information about how the district supports the whole child. And this was a great session and very informative. Yeah, I learned a lot through this one that I didn't know. I think it was one of those that the depth of how these partner organizations support our students. I don't think a lot of people know that, and if you watch this particular session, you would get a lot of extra information about that. And then in April, we had our early learning in the Kennewick School District, and again, this is another area where we have programs going on in the district that are so amazing in how we support early learning, and there was some great information shared as well. And then you will all be familiar with this one, and I think it was our most highly attended event other than the State of the District, and it was the role of a school board member. So a lot of interest in this and learning from you as a school board. So any questions or comments?
So
Yes.
I just want to add one thing to Rob's presentation. So the evolution of Get to Know KSD, it started, for many years it was an in-person one-day event that was held here at the district during the day. And the attendance for that was tracked for many years, and it was kind of hovering around 100.
Yes.
And so, trying to remember now if it was a year, 2 years ago, we went through a process to try to revamp our approach. And so it evolved to a monthly session, year before last, if I'm remembering correctly, Robin. And then also this year too. This year, we just struggle with in-person attendance at all of the sessions. It was like Diane and a couple other people, pretty much, but have had better attendance sort of with people viewing the video after the fact. So we're still, trying to best understand what information parents would like and would most benefit from. It also kind of connects to educational opportunities that we'll be able to provide parents with the merging of the community ed and family ed position that we talked about a couple months ago. But if you have comments or questions or ideas about or things that you've heard from people about any of this, we'd love to hear board feedback as well as any questions you have, because we're always looking to how do we continue to evolve to best meet the needs of families.
Sure, and I'm also looking continuously at what other districts are doing, and they're struggling with the same issues that we are. about in-person attendance at these meetings. And so a lot of them are really capitalizing on the video element of recording sessions and making dedicated channels on their social media that are libraries of content and just building that up year after year. And so the resources are always there.
Diane.
And that's what I was going to point to, is that having all of you here and having to set everything up, and then having one person and myself, or two and myself, I always felt really sad because there were 20 people presenting and 2 of us listening. And so, you know, if you could do it that way that you're talking about, you could walk in and talk to the ECAP people and just do it there, and this and this and this, and put it online. And the dedicated channel, I know that, I think it's North Shore, I think, that they have an excellent one, and so does Federal Way. And they have, you know, 97 different languages, and they do it all in all the languages, and you know, that's always my big deal. And so to have it also in Spanish too, I think it would take less of your time to do this, and you could direct more of your time to do that in depth for the families.
I appreciate that.
It was great. The information was great. It's just, I think COVID made people not want to leave their homes because we can do everything online, right?
Yeah, so it's just packaging it how people want it. We know they want the information.
Yeah, I would agree with the video aspect of it. I mean, I don't know if anybody wants to say it, but I will. But in-person attendance for almost everything outside of board meetings since I've been on the board has been slim to none. We try to be as transparent as possible and say, hey, here's all these levy presentations, here's all this stuff, come down and come see. And it's all administrators and school district employees or board, and you get 1 or 2. So I just don't know if we're getting a lot of all the time we're spending on the presentations, we're not seeing people come and attend them. So I think using the technology that we have to push out the information is probably better suited for us, so people can watch it on their own time. Going forward, are we introducing new topics for next year? Like, we're not going to redo these topics per se, right? We're going to have new topics for next year. Perfect. And
we don't redo topics, but we do look at our different survey results.
Sure.
And we try to garner information from them on what exactly families would want to hear about.
Okay. And then the only other thing, and I don't know if this is get to know KSD or get how to use KSD, I don't know, but like, do we have little instructional videos that we have where people can go to, like, watch how to log into Parent Square and the purpose of Parent Square, how to use Power School, like short reels on how to do this stuff? Because that's some of the questions I get is like, oh, well, how do I do this? So if we don't, just might be something to think about with this process.
We actually do. That's one of the real positive, one of the few positive outcomes of the pandemic where there was a lot of instructional videos created by our IT department.
Yeah.
Who did a wonderful job.
So then we need to have, like, we need to make sure that everybody knows they're there, and teachers know, and staff. That way, if there's parents asking, they can just say, here's your 60-second snippet on how to do it. That way we're not, we can get it on their own time. So perfect. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
All right, so Robin is done. Rob just stood up. That means he's going to say something.
Yeah.
He's moving towards. Okay. Are you done, Rob? Or are you going to take? All right. Oh, you're next. Okay. Good job. All right. Oh, right there. Okay. Unfinished business. I'm sorry there, man. Unfinished business. Southridge High School gym naming recommendation. Matt Scott.
All right. So wanted to come tonight. We've worked through some processes in regards to the board initiating gym renaming of Southridge at the Southridge High Gym. So again, I mean, all of our processes are really tied in with our strategic plan goals. I mean, we want to engage the community, and that's really part of this process. And also very much governed by policy, in this case, policy 9250. So policy 9250, as you will recall, back in March when this came before you, talks a little bit about number one, how we would go about naming facilities within a building, such as gyms, fields, libraries, that kind of thing, and also clarifies that even though the board can carefully consider community recommendations, that really that responsibility lies with you. So we would be coming to you for a recommendation, but ultimately the decision is the board's. Again, the procedure outlines the fact that if the school board decides to initiate naming, that we will elicit community feedback, that we will select a committee. And the purpose of that committee will be to take a look at the submissions and the rationale for the submissions from the public, and then make a recommendation. Then we would do what I'm doing tonight, which is pass that along to you for final approval. So just in terms of timeline around this, back in March, on March 22nd, there was some communication with the board. The school board initiated the naming of the Southridge High Gym. By the end of March, we were able to get communication to the Southridge High staff so that they knew what was going on with this, and also the formation of a committee. On April 24th, we had our first meeting of the committee and kind of outlined the process. And we opened up community submissions April 28th and ran those for a couple of weeks until May 15th. On May 17th, we had a second meeting of the committee, and at that point, we looked at the submissions, we reviewed them, and we narrowed them down to a set of finalists. On the May 30th, we had a third meeting, and at that point in time, we expanded the committee a little bit because we had staff members on the committee, and we had students on the committee, and we needed some additional people maybe who would come in and help with that. So we added a couple of Booster Club members to the committee at that time. So they kind of joined a little bit later in the process, but this was the point where we were really deliberating over what kind of recommendation we would bring. We had our fourth meeting of the committee on June 13th, and we finalized a recommendation at that point, and then here we are tonight. Our committee members are listed here, and again, we had Mr. Williamson participate as the principal. We had a good mixture of Southridge High staff, some of those Southridge High staff, including Cambry or our alumni of Southridge. We had a Booster Club folks who volunteered, and then we also had four of our Southridge High senior class members. I think most of them were officers of the senior class who participated as well. And then I attempted to facilitate the discussion over the course of those four meetings. So when we asked for community input, this was what we asked for. And so if it was posted on our website, and so we basically asked them to suggest a name and then to tell us why the name should be considered. So we had a total of 190 responses. Some of those responses were repeat responses, but again, we don't really weigh how many times a name is submitted because we don't want it to be, it's not a vote, it's not that kind of thing. So we had 190 total. 30 of those 190 were names of individuals tied to the community, tied to the school, some not tied to our community or tied to the school. We had 39 suggestions that were not names of individuals. It's kind of hard to categorize these, but they were either riffs on the Suns mascot, they were geographical features. Some of them were a little silly, but there were 39 suggestions that were not named for individuals. We did have two suggestions from community members saying that they didn't feel the gym needed to be renamed, and we had two suggestions to call it just the Southridge High Gym, which is basically what it currently is called. So our committee selected three finalists to consider and to deliberate on. One of the finalists was to call it the Ralph Lecomte Gymnasium. Ralph Lecomte was the first athletic director and assistant principal at Southridge. He was on Ron's staff when they started the school, and he is really instrumental in a lot of the traditions that were developed at Southridge. We had also the Javon Jojo Khan Gymnasium was recommended and selected as a finalist. And then we also had quite a bit of discussion about having a recommendation about not naming the gym. So those were kind of the three options that the committee debated. When the committee considered over those three meetings, the first meeting was really kind of to set up the process, but over the three meetings, I just wanted to summarize a little bit just the considerations for each of the recommendations. So for Ralph, Ralph was really supported in terms of the committee by a majority of the staff that were on the committee. Many of them knew him and had worked there when he was an assistant principal there. But he was not really known to any of the student members of the committee. They didn't know who he was. And while he's a significant figure for sure in the history of Southridge, he is fortunately still alive. And by procedure, naming of our living person we want to avoid, unless the circumstances warrant an exception. The committee really couldn't come up with a set of circumstances that would warrant that. When we were considering Jovan Jojo Khan, this was an option that was supported by all of the students and some of the staff members on the committee. So what we really had was kind of a real split on the committee. Those who were not supportive cited primarily two reasons. One being that right now, Jojo Khan's memory and is really honored in several ways at the school every year. They have a Jojo Khan Spirit Award that is awarded to students and in the past has been awarded to some staff members. They have the Jojo Khan Award that's given on the basketball team for the basketball player that exhibits hard work and team commitment. And they also do a Jojo Khan Week. And it's held annually to focus on inclusion, acceptance, and some spirit. And so they felt like we already are honoring Jojo in quite a few different ways at the school. The other thing, and this is it's a sad piece, but there have been several Southridge alumni who have contributed to the history of the school, but who have also tragically passed away. And so there was some discussion about, how do you single out one student over others who were also significant, and that was a challenge for those that were struggling with the decision around JoJo. When we talked about not naming the gym, that was supported by most of the staff and the Booster Club members, primarily due to the relative age of the school. Southridge has been around for about 25 years, but the feeling was that the school was really just too young, that this was a significant honor to be placed and something that would last forever, and really kind of questioning, did any of the names that were suggested, including our finalists, deserve the recognition. That not naming the gym was not supported by our students. So as I mentioned, it was really a split committee in many ways, and for some staff who felt that, Jovan was very deserving of this, and they had lots of good reasons why to do that. At the end of 3 meetings, consensus could not be reached by the committee. We were just at a place where we couldn't really agree at all on a way forward. So we discussed then a compromise recommendation. So when we looked at the suggestions that had come in from the community input around JoJo, they all used similar terms. There was a commonality in the terms such as spirit, cheering, fan, inspiration were all offered by multiple people who had suggested that name. So the committee really agreed that naming the student cheering section, the JoJo Khan student section, would be a deserved honor and would really, again, just continue to elevate not only the memory of JoJo, which is already present at Southridge, but also really encapsulate what they're trying to do, which is use JoJo Khan's spirit and the spirit of support that he brought to the teams and the students. And it would be, again, a way to make that really visible. So we talked about a variety of ideas, and I know that they're going to continue to flesh some of these ideas out, but, they want to have, a banner that's kind of memorializing the name of the student section. They want to be able to, take that banner to other places, to Lamson Stadium, to home field events, and to away games, so that they can really embrace, again, that spirit. And that was a compromise that the committee felt that really addressed both the initial needs that were communicated to the board, but also honored the other ideas that folks had around naming. So the committee is really recommending that the Southridge High Gym remain the Southridge High Gym, and that the student cheering section be named the JoJo Khan student section, and would put that recommendation in front of the board for your consideration.
Okay, questions?
I think it's a great compromise, and my opinion is I actually think that that's a better way to honor his name. I mean, that I didn't realize yet there. I guess I did. I knew there was a week, but I didn't realize there's other things as well. But like taking the banner and having the student section, I think that's actually a more appropriate and better way to do it. So I actually really like that recommendation.
Did you put that in the form of a question? No, just kidding. Yeah, question.
You don't have to put in a formal question. Mr. Rowley.
So, just a couple quick ones. So the last meeting was June 13th. So did all these senior class members from the committee attend that meeting? Were they able to attend even though they're graduated and all?
Yeah, so the students attended all the previous meetings. We had that meeting scheduled. We obviously were trying, I was trying to get it in graduation week, but they all reminded me that that's a terrible week to try to have a committee meeting, and I had. And so they were all notified of the meeting. We had, and some of them had work commitments and other things, so they did not attend that final meeting. However, I know that Cambry, who is their advisor, they were well advised of things, and we were very close to this compromise after meeting 3. That was kind of how we ended the meeting, but there was some questions about eliciting some further feedback that we kind of wanted to work through a little bit because it was kind of falling outside of the procedure and we'd already gathered, and so that's why we came back together. So no, they did not attend the meeting, but I'm looking hopefully at Cambry that they were all very aware of how that all. Okay.
That's what I needed to know.
And then my just, I guess, my last question, why wasn't there any community members involved in the committee from the start? It looks like we've got staff who potentially all worked with Mr. LeCompte, and then we have the senior class as part of the committee who all obviously know JoJo. So right out of the gate, we immediately had a split of a committee, and then we didn't fill in the gaps with others. I mean, 350 kids at Southridge, alumni over 25 years. I mean, there's got to be 4 or 5 people in the community that could jump on here and maybe share some more information. So I'm just curious why it took so long to go and snag Booster Club members to join the committee versus right out of the gate.
Right, and I think, when we, what I tasked our building, tasked Ron with was developing the committee. I think the inclusion of committee members or community members was not necessarily specified within the procedure as well as it probably needs to be, and just to make sure that makeup happens in the future. I think that there, again, I can't necessarily speak to the why, other than when we started the committee, that was a concern that I had as well, to try to get some community members. So the Booster Club was kind of a last ditch effort of getting some people. But I think that, again, were I to go through this process again, which I hope not to go through this process very, very soon. But if we were, then we would certainly make sure that there was more community involvement in regards to the decision, because I agree that it would have been more helpful.
Yeah, because I think immediately, probably looking at this, we started out with a divided camp right out of the gate, and everybody's got strong opinions, and we're missing community members in this. So if we need to clarify the policy, I think that's something we should probably look at doing as well.
I have a question.
Okay, Diane.
Point of order, I guess, on that. So on that recommendation, it says, recommend that it remain the Southridge High Gym. But then the second part, that the student cheering section be named the JoJo Con, is that our purview? Do we need to do that part? Isn't that just more of a school issue?
Mm-hmm. So I think that, again, what the recommendation that's coming to you is that we're going to keep the Southridge High Gym named. You're right that the wording within the policy and procedure is naming parts of a facility like a gym, like an auditorium, those kind of things. And we certainly have some names for things around the district that I don't know have gone before the board before. I just don't have the history on some of those things. So this recommendation is really to say we think the gym needs to not be named, but is also designed to show that compromise that that the initial issue that was brought to you has been addressed as well.
Okay, any other questions? Do we have a motion to accept the recommendation?
Sure. I will move that the committee, or that the board recommend that the Southridge High Gym remain the Southridge High Gym, and that the student cheering section be named the JoJo Con student section.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Discussion?
I think this was a good compromise. Thank you for you guys that worked on that.
And we appreciate that time having a hard back.
No,
You did a
no,
great job.
no compliments to Matt. He's leaving. He's leaving.
Matt's not.
No, I'm
he's
not leaving yet. I'm not leaving. It's,
No.
No.
Oh, Ron, I'm sorry.
It's Ron.
at least I hope not. At least-
Oops. Oops.
So we got a motion and a second.
Diane says we have a motion and a second. Okay, no further discussion. Let's have a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Ms. Sunvik?
Yes.
And Mr. Mabry?
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks, Matt. I was just kidding. About
He got a little shaky there.
All right, so we're going to move on to new business. And first of the new business is the appointment of the 2023-24 Student Board Representatives and Representative-elect, Dr. Parrish.
Okay, yeah, so we had a board committee that included Mr. Galbraith, Mr. Valentine, Ms. Sunvik, also included Mr. Scott and myself, and we interviewed all of the applicants for student board representative and representative-elect. And the committee's recommendation to the full board is to appoint Mallory Dupois.
She said it was Dupois.
Dupois. Thank you, Ms. Sunvik. I was struggling today to remember how to pronounce Mallory's last name, but she's from Kennewick High School, and the recommendation is that she be appointed the 23-24 student board representative, and that Annie Maltos from Southridge High School be appointed student board representative-elect. So that is the recommendation, and it's all I would say, and if board members wanted to comment as well, it was a very difficult, lengthy process because all of the applicants this year, not only did we have many of them, they were all outstanding. So it was a very difficult task.
Yep, agreed.
All right, so we have a recommendation. Is someone want to put that form in the form of a motion?
I move that the board accept the recommendation and appoint Mallory Dupois as a 23-24 student board rep and Annie Maltos as the 2023-24 student board representative elect.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, we will move for the roll call vote.
Mr. Galbraith?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Ms. Sunvik?
Yes.
And Mr. Mabry?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I would say both students were super excited to learn that they were selected, and they knew that the formal appointment would happen this evening. I let them know that they did not need to be at tonight's board meeting, but they will be here at the first board meeting in September, where we'll welcome and introduce them formally to the community.
And I will say that we saw Mallory at graduation, and she was just thankful and excited, and she had some ideas already, so she's thinking about it.
So you got good ideas.
All right, then next we have policy 2140, instruction, guidance, and counseling.
Okay,
Dr. Pierce.
thank you. So the 2000 series, this year actually the 1000 and 2000 series policies were both reviewed and amended to for formatting and to include appropriate updated legal references and so forth. The board approved the 2000 policies this evening as part of consent agenda, but there are two of the 2000 policies that have some more substantive changes. So I'm presenting both of those for the board tonight. The first is our guidance and counseling policy 2140. You can see the strike-through wording here at the top. This is our current policy on guidance and counseling, so it's very short. And there's been some changes at the legislative level regarding schools having a comprehensive school counseling program. We've had a task force working on that for the past couple of years. And there's some WASDA model policy that I leaned on here to provide this update. Essentially, it just further fleshes out what the comprehensive school counseling program is based on in terms of national counseling ASCA standards, and what's required by RCW 28A32600. And so that's just a high level explanation of the policy update that you're seeing before you on the screen, presented for your consideration.
Okay, thank you. Do we have questions?
I just real quick. So in here it says school counselors align supports district's vision, mission, strategic goals, work with other staff, yada, yada, yada. What part of this covers like the parents? So just ensuring like parents are aware of what's going on, because like for instance, I personally had counseling issues, like guidance counseling issues this year that almost affected my daughter's ability to go into college and actually play sports right away. And if I wasn't doing my homework and digging through requirements, it would have been missed and she would have missed a whole year. So how are the parents involved in this? So we're not potentially running into some of those roadblocks.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying in terms of the question. I think there's probably, what you're not seeing is the updated procedure. So once the board approves a policy update, then we can, on the administrative side, develop a procedure to accompany the policy that would probably be best addressed in the procedure. And I can ensure that when I'm updating that procedure, that we spell out the expectations around communication with parents and engagement with parents.
Yeah. Okay.
I need
Really,
to get a pen. real
Yeah, with that procedure, I mean, really a parent should be notified every time that a kid is, every time that we're able to do it. I know there's some laws, but every time we're able to do it, the parent really should be notified.
Able to do what?
If a counselor is talking to a kid, parents should be notified. As much as the law requires. When that happens, parents are involved.
Much as the law allows.
Yeah, as much as the law allows, sorry, yeah.
You're saying anytime a school counselor talks with a student?
Yep. As much as, yes, if the law allows it, we need to make the student, or the parent should always be aware of that.
I'm just thinking a bit about what maybe current reality looks like when it comes to, so the law that I think you're referring to, and I won't have it all, all of the exact wording off the top of my head, but there are some laws on the books governing minors and students over the age 13 or older not having to provide parental consent or that like comprehensive health. Let me give you that example. So our comprehensive health therapists, the school-based therapists, not our school counselors, right? If they're speaking to a student who's 13 years or older, by law, the student has to give consent that the therapist talk to the parent. So that's what the law says. Now, I know our comprehensive health therapists want to engage parents. In fact, we've been having some recent conversation. They did a presentation at Focus. I know I'm not talking about our school counselors right now, but like if there's therapy being provided, right, there's some laws governing that. When it comes to school counselors, they're providing counseling for, let's just take high school, for example. Are you on track to graduate, right? Are you looking at the transcript, helping students determine, what courses they need to take and so forth. So I'm just wanting to ensure that I have clarity. Is the board saying that anytime a school counselor speaks to a student, that you would want there to be parent contact about that?
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I didn't.
that's what I'm saying. I think the parents should always be aware of it, as much as possible.
I don't. Like, you know, we don't always see eye to eye, and I just remember myself in that predicament, and there was times when if my parents were involved, I wouldn't have gone to see the counselor. And it was about studies. It's just that the wrath of my parents coming down on me would just add to the issue that I was already having. And that was my safe place, was to be able to go to my counselor and say, hey, what can I do to get my grades up? Before my parents were even aware that my grades were down. And it was a help. So just my own experience saying, hey, just give me a little bit of ability as I'm thinking on the high school level, my ability to be an adult or almost an adult, and let me handle this first. Now, gets to the point that I'm failing out of school, of course. But I think my first visit should be on my own.
Well, I'm thinking about at the beginning of the school year when kids decide to move classes around, and there are 12 kids lined up behind every counselor's door. The logistics of doing that and of parents being able to connect with that, there are some things that aren't, like parents told the kid to go talk to the counselor about changing your class. So I think the logistics sometimes of that would be a little difficult. Or I don't even know if necessary.
So we now have updates where hopefully most parents can get right on and look at every student's stuff in real time, right? So, I mean, with all due respect, some parents are going to know anyway, and the parents who are really active, the ones who have like heavy wrath, are probably going to be somewhat aware, somewhat aware. Yeah, it might be logistically hard, but you know, the parents are the stakeholders, right? You know, and these are their kids, and they're not our kids, they're their kids, and they're not the school's kids, they're the parents, the family's kids. So, yeah, I think they should know.
Yeah.
But like you just said, they already know. I agree, they know.
They might.
They're looking at different.
Yeah.
That information is already there.
And I'm my wondering about this conversation is not so much in that we would have any interest in keeping anything from parents or not engaging parents in the whole process. It's more in the logistics piece. And like, would that also pertain to teachers? I mean, I'm just trying to think about how they would actually do that, like email the parent after every.
At the end of the day.
And would you want the same for teachers? Like anytime a teacher talks to a student about anything? I mean, I'm just trying to think about the logistics of that, right? Because, yeah.
Teacher's a little different, maybe, I think, but.
Okay, is that because of?
A one-on-one counseling session, or if you're a counselor and your kid, you know, I could list a whole lot of reasons why I think that's important, but yeah. And then I have a question about third-party counselors.
I agree with what you're saying, Micah, on the counseling piece, like the therapist stuff, as much as we can involve the parent. So school counselors, again, I just go from my own experience. Like I know, you know, my kids have gone in, switched classes a couple times and moved out, and you know, it puts a lot on a counselor to email maybe 20 or 30 parents a day just based on switching classes. So I don't know if that's, I don't know if that'd be something feasible to do every day. You're having that conversation with the school counselor, but I would love to have a way where parents can be involved in that piece somehow, where they know how their kids are doing, or more communication around it. Because again, involved parents will be involved. Some parents may just not have the time to get involved. We talk about volunteering. Parents don't have the time to volunteer, they may not have the time to reach out and make phone calls, but if there's a way we can factor them in the procedure with some sort of.
Yeah. Again,
update,
I think what you're identifying better lives in procedure than policy language.
I agree.
It does, the policy does speak to provide, and this is part of the comprehensive school counseling program requirements, right? That part of that program is to provide a process for identifying student needs through a multi-level school data review and analysis that includes at a minimum use of time data, program results data, and data regarding communications with administrators, parents, students, and stakeholders. So I mean, in the policy itself, it's speaking to the importance of communication with parents. So no argument on that whatsoever, and that, you know, parents are, we want them to be partners. They are partners. We need to involve parents to the greatest extent possible. I think I'm more kind of just stuck on the logistics piece and the feasibility, and kind of depending on the nature of the thing, right? Like, is it, I want it to change from third period to fourth period, and then also, it, you know, once you put those kind of expectations in place, how do you hold people accountable to it, all those kind of things. And through all of this, we've really been focusing on counselor workload, right? Because a big part of this legislation is about ensuring that counselors are not spending their time doing non-counseling things, that they're providing direct and indirect services to students instead of doing things like coordinating the district testing program or things like that, things that they're trained to do. Anyway, I've taken some notes on what
Is there a quick way we can add the Power School and notification, a push notification?
Yeah, I mean, there's,
something?
you know, I need to look into what's possible and feasible and kind of, you know, reasonable. We've had this task force working all year. We're adding counselors, as you know, at the high school level to help with some of the caseload, because like the caseloads that counselors have right now are you know,
Enormous, yeah.
pretty high. And I mean, that's part of adding the staffing at the high school, is to make their job a little more feasible. So I'm just kind of thinking about adding requirements that might not meet exactly what concern you actually have, right? Like, I don't know that the concern would be, a counselor might be talking to my kid about changing classes and I don't know about it. It might be kind of some of those more other things.
You're right.
So,
You're right. Yeah.
so I want to make sure that we don't put procedures in place that are just kind of,
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Busy
it's really a
work and
separate
not-
counselor, right?
Mhm.
But this is, you know, it's guidance and counseling, right? So then my next question is, what about third-party
Yeah.
counselors?
So this is all really pertaining to our employees, our school counselors, who are not mental health therapists or not therapists. We contract with Comprehensive Health to provide that school-based therapy. We've just recently updated our website to provide some more information about Comprehensive Health and that partnership that we have. And the coordinator, kind of the liaison from Comprehensive Health, did a presentation at our focus committee and really touched on that parental involvement piece, and that their goal is to involve families as appropriate, you know, with their therapy, knowing that they're also required to follow the law that says if the student is 13 years or older, they have to provide consent for the therapist to contact the parent. So those are just the constraints under which they have to operate.
This is specific to school.
But this is
school
specific to
counselors
school counselors.
Providing academic counseling.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay. So, can we have you're finished, Dr. Tracy.
I am.
Okay. Can we have a motion to accept policy 2104, guidance and counseling, as presented?
I'll move to recommend the approval of guidance and counseling policy 2140 as presented.
Second?
For first and second reading.
Second?
Second.
Okay, discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, I ask for the roll call vote.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Ms. Sunvik,
Yes.
and Mr. Mabry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to have policy 2330, academic freedom. Dr. Pierce is going to help us out with that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mabry. I wanted to bring this policy forward because I thought it would be of interest to the board. And this is actually something that we talked about during collective bargaining. What was that, a year ago? With our KSD KEA team. And there is some language in the collective bargaining agreement that we developed around this issue of academic freedom that's actually stronger than our current policy language. And when you're thinking about, just for your information and information you probably already know, but when you think about the hierarchy of rules, law is at the top, right? Actually, collective bargaining agreement language trumps policy language because it's a legal binding agreement, and then our policy language. So we always want to make sure that our policy language and our collective bargaining agreement language, don't conflict. In this case, when we were collective bargaining, we were looking at our existing policy language and what was in the CBA and made some strengthening changes to the CBA. And now that we're reviewing this 2000 series policies, it's a good opportunity to beef up this policy language and ensure the two align. So you see the changes, the additions in red, and this is the language that's coming out of the CBA, the principle of academic freedom. For employees will not supersede the basic responsibilities of the employee to the profession of education. These responsibilities include commitment to democratic tradition and support of, the Constitution of the United States, concern for the rights, welfare, growth, and development of children, insistence on objective scholarship, adherence to district authorized courses of study, board adopted curriculum, and applicable learning standards. So essentially says there's academic freedom within those boundaries, but there's not academic freedom to teach outside those boundaries.
All right. Questions?
Just one clarifying question. Board adopted curriculum includes supplemental curriculum, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Just want to make sure it covers both.
Okay, so do we have a motion to accept 2330 as presented?
Yeah. I move that we accept policy 2330, instruction academic freedom, as currently written on the board for first and second.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Seeing none, hearing none. Let's have the roll call vote.
Mr. Galbraith,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Ms. Sunvik,
Yes.
and Mr. Mabry.
Yes. And having that at that point, I know Gabe is ready to move on.
Keys in his hand.
Micah, and I know Gabe is usually, okay. It's usually our time for a break, right?
It is, yeah.
So let's do a final break. Next meeting agenda will be the consent items only. It'll be alternative learning experience, annual reports, and that's all on the agenda.
And we will be online.
Yeah, be online, right?
Right, so that's the one board meeting of the year where the whole board attends remotely, staff is here, and it's a very quick meeting where we just do consent items. Right now, that's the only item. There might be a couple other consent agenda items added.
But you will be open if someone wants to
Correct. We
attend.
are here if someone wanted to attend in person.
All
Very
right.
good, thank you. Any other business is authorized by law? Then
Don't
I
think so.
get my final,
Yay.
we are adjourned.